Today we're going to start our review for the Chapter 8 in geometry, which really focuses on special kinds of triangles, 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, and also on sine, cosine, and tangent ratios, as well as right triangles and vectors. So we've got a lot to cover in this review. So in this first problem, it asks us to find the missing side. So first of all, if I were looking at this and this were like a regular right triangle, I would assume this side is C. So I could follow, my a squared plus b squared equals c squared stuff from Pythagorean. So 6 and 8 are going to be a and b. C is going to stay there. So let's see. 6 squared would be 36. 8 squared would be 64. Which gives me 100. And remember, to get c by itself, you have to do the square root. So c is 10. Okay, next one. Another missing side one. It looks like in this one, though, that our c value is there, 25. So I'm just going to mark this x. So x squared plus 24 squared is going to equal 25 squared. 24 squared is 576. 25 squared is 625. Subtract 576 from both sides. That will leave me with 49. So square root of 49 would be what x would be, so my answer would be 7. So my answer here is C. Okay, this one's another missing side, but they want us to leave it in simplest radical form. So I'm going to make this x. So x squared plus 6 squared equals 15 squared. Now 6 squared is 36. 15 squared is 225. Subtract 36 from both sides. That leaves me 189. So x is going to be the square root of 189. So I try to find some perfect square factors that will go into this, and I can see that 9 does. So 9 times 21 is going to give me 189. Square root of 9 is 3, and I can't do anything else with the 21. So it's 3 square root of 21, which gives me an answer of B. Now the next one, a triangle has lengths of 12, 14, and 19. They want to know if it's a right triangle. Well, if it's a right triangle, I should be able to plug it into this and it should work. So 12 squared and 14 squared. 19 is going to have to be C because it's the biggest one. Now I would go through and see if it actually multiplies out, gives me the right answer. So 12 squared is 144. 14 squared is 196. So if I were to add these together, that would be 340. 19 squared is 361. So these don't equal each other, so it would be no. Now, first of all, the only ones that are no are these two. But this one says it's equal, and we're trying to say that it's not. So C is going to be our answer. Okay, find the length of the hypotenuse. Okay, first of all, this is 45. This has to be 45, which means that both of these are 3 square root of 2 long. Now, in our general 45, 45, 90 triangle, that's a pathetic triangle. I'm really sorry about that. Our 45 and our 45. These are S, S, and S square root of 2. So if I take how long the sides are and I multiply it by square root of 2, that's how long this side is. So it was already 3 square root of 2. I've got to multiply it by that. So I'm going to put them both underneath, which would be 4. Square root of 4 is 2, which would give me 6. My answer is B. Now this is the same kind of triangle. Remember, these are 45. 45. It says find your leg to find the length of the leg. So they want to know what these are. And remember, this side right here, if this is a 45, 45, 90, these should be S, S, and S square root of 2. So these two have to equal each other. So I'm going to multiply both sides by square root of 2. So 16 square root of 2 equals 2s divide by 2. These are the only two that can divide. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. So 8 square root of 2. So my answer is B. Okay, let's look at the next one. Find the length of the missing sides. So this is 45, 45, 90. So this is 7. That makes this one also equal 7. That means that this side, if I'm dealing with, sorry, another one of my pathetic drawings here, 45, 45, 90. If this is S and this is S, then this is S square root of 2. I could see on this one S would have to be 7, which makes this 7 square root of 2. So first of all, on this one, it's easy to see that Y has got to be 7. And really, the only one that has Y being 7 is this one. So let's hope that X matches that. So X is supposed to be 7 square root of 2. So if I put 7 times the square root of 2 in my calculator, I get 9.899, keeps going. So if I round that to the nearest tenth, that would be 9.9, which does match what B has. Okay, now this one talks about a square garden. I'm actually going to draw a picture so you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing here. So there's a square garden that has the area of 50. Now if it's a square garden, first of all, that means that all the sides have to be the same. So if I were trying to solve this and it were 50 meters squared, that means length times width would give me that. So just for argument's sake, I'm going to make these square root of 50. Because square root of 50 times the square root of 50 would give me 50. That would be my length times width. And they want to know how long this is. That means all of these sides would be the square root of 50. So if I'm trying to look at this triangle, this would have to be a 45, 45, 90. And actually, let's just use Pythagorean Theorem to make it easier. So square root of 50 squared plus the square root of 50 squared equals x squared. So 50 and 50, which will give me 100. So x would be the square root of 100, which would be 10. Okay, and this one, 30, 60, 90, they want us to find the missing side and leave it in simplest radical form. Now, with the way this one is written, I probably would just use Pythagorean Theorem because it seems easier. 6 squared plus x squared equals 12 squared. So 36, 12 squared is 144, subtract 36, so you get x squared equals 108. So x is the square root of 108. So I try to think about what perfect squares will make this, could give me two factors. So 36 times 3 is going to give me 108. 36 being a perfect square of 6. So 6 square root of 3. So my answer is D. Okay, now this one I think is kind of tough for students. First of all, probably the easiest thing to do is this triangle I'm going to have to start with, because it's the only one that has a real measurement on there. So let me pull this little triangle off here just so you can see what I'm doing. Oops. Need a pen there, Maureen. Okay, 34, and this is 30, 60, and there's your 90. And I really need to know this side and this side. Now, if I'm talking about a 30, 60, 90 triangle, this side is 2s. So that means s would have to be 17. Which means that this side would be 17, and this side would be 17 square root of 3. So let me just add this in here. 17, and this part right here is 17 square root of 3. Now, if I can find out this other piece here, I can find out what y is. I just have to add those two pieces together. Now, if I'm looking at this, and this is a 45 triangle down here, this will have to be 45, which means that this side is also 17. So y is going to be 17 plus 17 square root of 3. So if I add those in my calculator, 17 plus 17 square root of 3, I end up with 46.4. So far, it has to be either A or D. Now, if I'm looking at this triangle, if I have 17 and 17 and x, let's just do Pythagorean Theorem. It's probably easier. So 17 squared plus 17 squared would equal x squared. 17 squared would be 298. $289 is 578. If I go to do the square root of that, because on this one they don't really want us to go through and do simplest radical form, round to the nearest tenth. So just put that in your calculator. So x equals the square root of 578. So x is 24.0. So that means my answer is going to be D. Okay, now this is another one I think that students have a hard time with. So they're going to tell you that you have an equilateral triangle. So imagine this triangle where all the sides are equal. I'm going to drop a line right here. Now first of all, they tell you that all the sides are 7. So 7 here and 7 here. And I know this whole thing is 7 down here. Now, if this is equilateral, then that means that all of these have to be 60, these angles. So this is 60 and this is 60, which would make these 30. Now, so far I haven't talked about really why I dropped this line, because they want us to do the area. Now, this would be your height. Our problem in this one is that obviously I know my base is 7, but I'm going to have to figure out that height to be able to do this problem. So eventually, I want to be able to put a number in here. Okay, so if this is 30, 60, 90, this side right here would be my 2s, which would mean s would be equal to 3.5, which means that this side's going to have to be 3.5 square root of 3, because it's across from the 60-degree angle. Now, they don't want simplest radical form, any of that. Just multiply that together. So 0.5 times 7 times 3.5 times the square root of 3 would give me 21.2. Do remember, answer is D then, to put the 1/2 in there if it's a triangle, because this angle, or this answer, is one that people often will answer because they're not paying attention to making sure they have 1/2 in there.